How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, Municipals? Welcome to our Bandon 2025 freshman class podcast. Today we're recording with a few of our friends to talk about our first time experience at Bandon. This is kind of a long time coming. We've had a few guys on to talk about their experiences, but none of them have ever played it for the first time. Always been like Ashton and Big Chris talking about the courses, but this is kind of a little bit of a fresh perspective and kind of a fireside chat for our boys here. I'll let them introduce themselves, but we've got our friends David Kalura, Dominic Seelig, Rod Hesh, calling in from the East Coast. Thanks for staying up late on a school night, Rod. And we've got the Alex Wong, one and only. How's everyone doing, guys?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Good to see you all.
Yeah, it's good to see this group back together.
It's nice to be back.
I'm super excited. Get some individual thoughts from you guys. If you don't mind, I'll go on my screen. It's like David, Dom, Rod, Alex. I'll go if you guys just do like a 10-second speed dating intro for yourselves. David, you go first, man.
Sure. Well, my name's David. I joined this group through a serendipitous meeting of Ashton, who was a co-organizer of the trip. Longtime competitive golfer, currently a +1, and played professionally for a few years. So bringing that experience into Bandon, and I evaluated it from a player perspective.
Awesome, man. Dom?
Howdy. I am a second-time returning guest. I was on the Spyglass pod with Alex and Ashton and Hussey. So thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. I'm calling in from just outside of San Francisco, and I'm grateful that I was a substitute addition to the trip and it ended up working out. Seems like, booking something 2 years in advance isn't easy for everybody to hold on to. So I appreciate being on the list of substitutes because it ended up being one of the best golf trips I've ever had. So happy to talk about my experience.
You're kind of like the only substitute, so we're always happy to hold a seat for you, man. I'm just kidding. Rod, hailing from the East Coast, how you doing, man?
What's up, Jack? Yeah, I'm in New York right now. I guess you guys have moved this podcast 1 hour earlier to accommodate for my schedule here. It is a school night, and I do need to get to bed eventually. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here. My first time on a podcast. I'm relatively new to the game of golf, so I think I'll bring a slightly different perspective to some of the commentary. I want to give a shout out to Chris Hussey for inviting me into this crew. I think it was Rick who said I'm Chris's only other friend. So I'm glad to, be here and recap with you all.
Yeah, only other friend outside of the friend group that he plays golf with, basically. So, yeah, definitely happy to have had you with us, man. It was super fun meeting you, and hopefully you can join us for our other golf trips that we do throughout the years. Mr. Alex Wong, welcome back.
Thanks, Jack. Yep, it's good to be back. Done a few of these, hopefully to do a few more. But yeah, coming from San Francisco, wish the golf game was a little bit better right now, especially after Bandon. But this was a great trip. Glad that we're getting a chance to recap on this. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So first couple of things, there's a few things for me because I'm sure like everyone else, like you guys consumed a bunch of Bandon content in the months, days, hours leading up to the trip. What did you guys like? Did you all have like any like preconceived notions about Bandon that were, you know, that you guys were, maybe it's a myth that you were trying to break getting to the trip? And really the first two questions, like what were your preconceived notions about Bandon, and what was that travel like getting to the property for you guys?
I can set us off.
I'll start.
So,
Oh, go for it,
I,
David.
I'm ready. So, preconceived notions of Bandon, like this is golf degenerate Disney World. I feel like it's a pretty it is the destination for anybody who plays golf with any regularity, I'd say. And my preparation was I've watched the no laying up, very well done no laying up videos of Bandon when they visited prior to the USAM. I think it was 2020. But didn't do any of the flyovers online. Like I wanted to have some freshness there and be able to draft my own opinion, of which changed many times. And then to answer your travel question, I'm coming from San Francisco, and Terminal 3 in San Francisco is an absolute disaster right now. One of the other guys who came on the trip, Auntie, and I showed up an hour early, as you do with check bags, and we were pretty sure we weren't going to get our golf bags on our flight to Eugene, but we fortunately made it through and got them on. But yeah, if you are going through San Francisco and you're checking in through Terminal 3, you got to give yourself an extra 30 minutes. It's brutal right now.
Yeah, there's like some construction stuff going on, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be great in like a year, but they're routing like everybody through security, and the security's not good. TSA is a lot longer than the regular security. So yeah, if you're on a tight timeline, you're kind of done for.
Alex, how's your trip up? I think you flew in by yourself. Like you weren't in any of the groups flying
No,
together, right?
Actually, I took the opposite route of everybody. It's the same as Rick route, which was I drove
That's
down,
right.
and same with JD. I know JD drove down from Seattle, but both Rick and I drove up. I loved it. I loved that drive. I split it up into 2 days. Drove all the way up to Crescent City, which is the very north part of California. Stayed up there in a little motel to the trip up, but got to take the 101 route, the Oregon Coast route. It was really, really pretty, and I think that was like my hype up to the trip was like, holy moly, I'm going into this beautiful location, this very secluded location, into the California redwoods, and then going into the Oregon like pine trees and that coastline. So that was a wonderful like way for me to start the trip. And my preconceived notions of Bandon, I kind of went into it a little bit blind. I looked at the scorecards, and same thing as David, knew that it was kind of this golf degenerate mecca for us, and knew that it was going to be one of these experiences that I felt like was going to have a great time no matter what, even if it was raining, or in our case, how heavy the winds were during our trip. This was going to be one of those great companies, like knowing this group, as well as being able to have a great golf experience.
Yeah, I drove up there also. That drive was very enjoyable for me. I did it one shot. I think I took two stops for gas, and that was it. Um, I left at like 4:30 a.m. from Sunnyvale, which was pretty fun. And then I got a good night's sleep. So yeah, it was a great drive. Definitely. Like what's funny is we didn't drive straight to the property. We stayed outside on Bandon proper, right? And basically that drive in with a couple of the guys was really fun into the property. As far as what I thought about Bandon, it's kind of this mystical place that everyone disappears for, a couple of days, couple hours, whatever it is, and you come out like seeing golf from a different perspective. Um, I was definitely really excited to see all these different courses that we got to play when we first got there. Um, Rod, I think you were the guy who was like farthest away from Bandon like where your trip started. Talk us through how that was for you, man.
I think I left my house at 3:15 in the morning Eastern time. So it's like midnight Pacific time to catch a 6 a.m. flight out of Newark to SFO. Um, I I think I did end up upgrading my seats. I had a lay flat, which was nice to kind of save the body a little bit. But I got to SFO. I think the layover was like an hour and a half or something like that. Uh, that's I got to meet up with Dom, Nick, Chris, and Ashton to catch the second leg of my travel or my flight to North Bend. So it was pretty demanding travel day, but well worth it. And obviously going to Bandon, I think I had done a golf trip to Streamsong earlier this year, and when I was talking to some folks down there, they were saying like, yeah, Bandon is like this, but a little different. They were saying there's nowhere you're gonna have a bad time. And, well, they were right. I left Streamsong feeling like I was coming out of a cloud, and to say anything less than that, leaving Bandon would be a sin. It was incredible, and I didn't like do too much research. I think I listened to that same No Laying Up podcast. There's a funny story I'll tell about when Ashton asked me which course I'm looking most forward to playing, what I answered, and what ended up happening on that course. But it was it's an amazing place, and as you said, Jack, totally changes your perspective on the game. Coming from a newer player, I went through the ringer. Lots of emotions. It was humbling. It was exciting. It was fun, and obviously being with you guys, made the whole experience, you know, amazing. So yeah, that's all I got to say on the travel and my expectations going into the trip.
All right, Dom, we've got a whole 30 minutes for you to wax poetic on this.
Oh no, I'll keep it short and sweet.
Just kidding.
I love the logistics, at least from San Francisco. The fact that they have, I think it's at one plane. Is it two? But it's one plane at the same time every day in the summer, for peak season, and takes you, right to North Bend, which is awesome when you're flying in there. It's like so beautiful, especially the day we had. So for myself, yeah, the hardest thing was like what David said, going into United. I'm an American guy. So one, I was already upset, and then two, it's an awful terminal. So that was the worst part of the day. And if that was it, it was made a lot better when you get on that flight and 90% of the people there are going to Bandon. And you can feel the energy. I know some guys were a little more louder than others in other groups that we flew with. They were having a good old time. So it brings good vibes into the start of your week or your weekend.
I think Auntie and I are the only ones who flew into Eugene, and I will highly recommend that. Obviously, there's a convenience factor for North Bend, but
Yeah.
that is seasonal service. And if you do show up and your clubs miss, you're going to be waiting, I think, at least a day to get them. So if you're looking for something quick, and there's 3 or 4 flights to Eugene on United
Yeah.
alone, so it's a pretty easy. And it's 2.5 hours drive down through the mountains to the coast, so it's pretty nice. Obviously, getting back isn't as enjoyable, but again, it's only 2 hours, 2.5 hours, so it's not the end of the world. But can happily recommend that.
Yeah, that was my original thought was like, oh, like I could just fly to Eugene, rent a car, and then go there. And then my girlfriend and I just bought a new car, so we're like, I'll just drive up there, like save some money, but also enjoy some time alone in the car by myself. So just a preface for the audience, real quick. Go ahead, Rod. You raised your hand.
I was gonna just call out something for the listeners of the podcast. I don't know if it was just our group when we landed. Getting an Uber out of the airport in North Bend is kind of a task. I don't know if they actually Uber serves the airport, and we may need to get an update from Ashton on another podcast on the whole ordeal there. I think there's some sort of monopoly happening. So Uber is not necessarily allowed on the property at the airport. So heads up, if you are flying into North Bend, arrange your transport, or you may have to, flag down a shuttle who's dropping people off to take you to your accommodation if it's not the resort. Because we didn't stay at Bandon the first night, so
Yeah,
just want
that,
to bring attention to that.
that's pretty interesting. Some small town stuff going on up there, huh?
Yeah,
I'm
so it
waiting
seems.
for the Municipals' first investigative long form piece into the price fixing.
Golf resort monopolies. Yeah,
Now that
that would actually be
KVV
really funny.
now that KVV has gone from no laying up, there's an opening in the competition market for that. So I think we
There you
can
go.
jump in.
So for the audience to give everyone kind of a an overlay of what we did for the trip. So we had was it total of was it 12 guys?
We had 12 people. Yeah.
12, yeah, 12 people. It was technically a 3-day trip or 4-day trip because we spent the first day just kind of all meeting up in Bandon proper, but we did play around at Trails as well. We're not going to recap Trails because most of the time,
Crossings.
Crossings,
We did
Crossings.
or
crossings.
sorry, not
Yeah.
Trails, Crossings.
You don't want
Most
to
of the
recap
time I
that
was
match that you lost, Jack?
most of the time. Oh, don't talk shit, Dom. Most of the time at Crossings, I was like giggling because of Rick's mushroom pills there. So day one was basically travel and getting the Crossings, getting settled in for the night, and then day two was Bandon Dunes and Bandon Trails back to back. Day three was Old Mac and Pack Dunes. And the final day that we had there was Sheep Ranch, and some of the guys had a bunch of, some guys played an extra 18 holes, other guys just hung out and, traveled or did some of the short courses. So we'll kind of go through pretty much day by day. We'll have a little bit of our thoughts on the routings on the courses, favorite holes, least favorite part of courses, and kind of short feelings overall about the course. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll have some of the flyover stuff up. We'll maybe have some pictures as well from the trip because Alex organized a pretty cool iCloud album that I've been looking at least twice a week for the last month or so. So our first course, Bandon Dunes. I'll be honest, most of the tee times because everything just blended together for me. I can't even remember what times we teed off. I just remembered how I felt on the first tees on all of those. So the first course we played was Bandon Dunes, OG Bandon as a lot of people would call it. For me, that was that morning I had an extended range session. The group chat was crapping on me for stacking and getting loose for the week before our first tee time. But Bandon it's weird. Like the first 2 days, the first rounds, or rather, I'll say it this way: Bandon Dunes and Pack Dunes. Like probably the first 6 holes, my mind was like. It wasn't on golf mode. It was like, oh my God, like we're here. We've been planning this for, however long it was, like 14 months or something like that. And I was kind of in that like blender there. So like the first 6 holes at OG Bandon, I was kind of just like looking up, like really just at the horizon every single time. I was like, oh yeah, like I got to put my ball there. And then while I'm walking to my ball, I'm just like, holy shit, this place is really cool. So I think my initial impressions on Bandon Dunes is it's a very I call it like a very magnanimous course. Like it's definitely out in front of you, but for a first timer, I was just in awe of that course, and I was like, oh man, like this is a great first course to play because it made me look forward to the other courses that we were going to go to. And yeah, I think that was kind of my first impressions, like stepping off for the first 6 holes. Um, and also one other note for our audience as well. We were pretty much all 3 days that we played at the resort was somewhere around like 30 to even 40 mile per hour winds at one point. So as you can imagine, like walking whatever it was, to 18, yeah, like however many holes we walked that week for all of us. It was pretty brutal because of the wind alone, but otherwise it was great company, great weather. So I'll open it up to the rest of you guys for your initial impressions on OG Bandon.
So OG Band, I really enjoyed OG Bandon, and I think it's important to note that we played it about a month before the Women's USAM, so it was already in great shape. Some areas had been closed off, some tee boxes had been closed. Most of them did not affect us, but it was in, I think, the best shape of all the golf courses, rightfully so. And it was very cool to play it in the preparation stage for a USGA championship. I think it's a great venue for that as well, and I think it is the perfect encapsulation of the best of Bandon. You get the ocean, you get the interior holes, you get the link style, you get the elevation change, and you get enough different angles for all of the holes where you're usually not hitting one into the wind or downwind. You're getting a mix, so it really does test it all. It feels like a great, well-rounded golf course. Is it my favorite? I don't think so, but I would also love to play it in winds that weren't 40 miles an hour gusting. I'll say this again, but to me, all of the Bandon golf courses, but especially the ones that are on the coast, Sheep, Bandon, and to an extent Pack, the wind took a little bit of the optionality that you have, and that's typical of links golf in terms of being able to move it off of slopes and shape your shots and work it on the ground. You kind of had to hit a specific shot given the wind direction. So that was a bit of a bummer to me. But outside of that, like it was a spectacular entrance into the world of Bandon, from my view.
Rod, what were your thoughts being the first course that we played first tee time? How'd it feel on the first tee? How'd that walk feel for you on Bandon Dunes?
It was exhilarating. I mean, Bandon was, or had been a place that I was looking forward to visiting for basically as long as I've been playing golf, like 2.5 years now. So when I was there, similar to what you said, Jack, I was like, I wasn't settling by any means. I was just like overwhelmed and taking it all in. Not to mention, I got to see Chris Hussey tee off first, and I was like, damn, that's a pretty swing. Um, so, anyways, like, it was incredible. Like, I will say, I mean, I was making fun of myself after the round and throughout the rest of the trip. Like, I was calling myself Uncle Rod because of the wind and, my spinny shots. Like, I basically adopted like a bunting strategy, you know, for the back nine at Bandon Dunes, and it actually was working because I was keeping my ball low and just getting it out there and having fun. I mean, I'm a sucker for the coastline, and I think some of the holes, especially on the back, just my jaw was dropped, and what I would do to go back. Again, I don't think it was my favorite course, but definitely like for the first tea time, it was incredible.
Yeah, the one thing with the wind, I think that was also like because of how windy it was. Like I didn't really feel it like at the range or even maybe on the first like 2 or 3 holes, but on four, I think I was walking down to my my tee shot or my approach shot, and I was like, holy shit, that's blustery. Like right in your face, like as you come off the tee box on four pretty much. I was like that's when I realized I'm like, oh man, like if this weather holds up for us, like it's gonna be pretty brutal. And kind of like on time, on target. JD was like, hey man, like bogey's gonna be a good score today. Like I'm like, okay, cool man. Like just put the ball in front of you, hit the shots that you have to hit, and you know, ball's gonna do some weird stuff if you get it in the air. So yeah, the routing for me was definitely. I think there's one common thing that I'll say about the routing overall in the different courses, maybe except for on trails, but it's a lot of the holes were kind of like a meandering walk. Like you're kind of just walking and you know trying, like it was like basically like the way I thought about it was like you're trying to play golf, but there's just so much to like look at and look for that there were times both at Pack Dunes and Bandon where I was like, oh yeah, I have to hit a golf shot. Like I'm just trying to look at the landscape and the fairway and the greens, and my mind was like almost elsewhere. Couldn't focus because of how crazy the landscape was to me. So, Alex or Dom, what were your thoughts on that first tee, first round walk for us?
I was in the same boat as Rod, which was, and you, Jack, was taking it all in. Um, I really agree with David. I felt like the course was probably the best conditioned out of all of them that we had played, just because it is prepping for the U.S. Women's Am. And I also agree that it is not my favorite course on this property, but there are definitely some holes out there that um, I really thought were special. Like 16 on the back nine was awesome, and it was fun because David and I were playing together, and we both hit driver. David's playing tips, by the way, and then Nick and I are playing one up, and we're playing with Auntie as well. They're both playing tips, and we could not find David's ball on 16 when he hit his drive, and I'm convinced that he drove it into and over the green and into the ocean because it was just such a good. It was so well hit that it was just unfortunate at that point that we couldn't find it. But yeah, there's definitely some certain holes within Bandon I think that are awesome from it. But it is one of those. I think it was a nice start because it was like, holy moly, we're playing the OG of this. This is what this whole resort and this whole set of courses was based off of, and how it all got started.
Yeah, I think we, didn't really have much of a choice. When you reserve it, they give you what you get. But I think playing Bandon Dunes first should be a goal because I think it perfectly encapsulates like what you can expect for the rest of the week in some cases. And after I left and in the week since, I genuinely think if someone called me and said, "Hey, you got a free plane ticket up to Bandon, you have one round though. We only have one day. We have one round we could play. Where do you want to play?" I think I would actually say Bandon Dunes because of that. It's not my favorite technically. That's Bandon Trails or Sheep. But I really want to play Bandon Dunes again. And I was more impressed with it than I had expectations for. Being the first course, right? Like obviously there's some lumps there, but I think it has the best par fours of all the courses on property, like arguably. 16 and 17 is just an awesome end to the round. And I thought the first hole was great. You have no idea what to expect. Like you're standing on the tee and you kind of hit your ball out there and you have no idea where you're going. And then you turn the corner and you're like, holy crap, I have to hit a mid iron, 30 yards, 30 feet above you into the wind. And then you get to number two and it's kind of the same thing. It's just beautiful. And then, that turnaround four, it can't be said, enough how beautiful it is to make that trek kind of across and through the dune. For us, as David mentioned, with the tees were different. because they closed some of it off. I thought that was actually probably the worst tee that we were given because it was so far up. It made it a little bit awkward to hit
Yeah.
your tee shot. I hit it through the fairway into the dune, and I think I hit actually one of the best shots of my week on that into the green. But after that, I got absolutely slaughtered by the wind. That fifth hole is so difficult, and the wind was blowing right in our face. And then the next par three after that, the wind was again blowing right in your face, and you were hitting like a 5-iron, 130 yards or something. So I got a little bit flustered, and then you go back inland, and then things settle down a little bit. But I still wouldn't complain at all. It was a fair test, and I just wish that those greens at Bandon Dunes, Pacific Dunes being right next door, I wish they were similar quality putting wise. I think that would have made a big difference. We'll get to that, but I think Bandon Dunes has everything that you can ask for at the resort as a whole.
Dom, you thought the greens were better at Bandon than Pacific, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
most definitely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry,
Yeah,
I thought you just gave the hottest of hot takes. I was like, oh, what?
Yeah, the conditions definitely, like I forgot, like, and this is why it's great to talk about this, especially like it being the first time. Like, I forgot that, like, I didn't realize that until probably like the 15th hole that we were playing it right before the women's amateur, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, like no wonder these greens are really close to being super dialed. Dom, I agree. Like 5 was actually like one of my favorite holes. Like that was one of the ones where I looked out, like we got to the tee box and I was like, where the hell do you hit this ball on this? Like, especially because the wind was like into us coming from, north to south and off from the Pacific too. I hit one of my best shots on that hole for the whole trip too. Like everyone kind of hit like a really short drive, and then it was maybe one of like 3 or 4 stingers that I hit that I was actually like, oh hey, yeah, like well executed and pretty good result. But then I 3-putted for a bogey, so bogey was a good score that day. Any thoughts on what you guys' like favorite holes were on Bandon Dunes, on OG Bandon?
I'll go just because I know right away. It's 17 for me. I think, and I don't try and be contrary. I know 16 is a very popular answer there, and 16 is awesome. I got boned on 16, so I automatically dock it down. There's that little bunker, and I had to like basically have my ass against the bunker and hit out sideways because I didn't have a shot. So 17 automatically gets my vote. I think that ravine over there is just awesome, like the scale of it. And then the decision you have to make, like how far up do you want to hit it? And then the second shot is, it takes finesse. And I think from a, end of the day standpoint, like sunset, like it's just a gorgeous hole.
I think for me, 5. Like, I know we've talked about it, but that was the first one where it's like, all right, welcome. Like, time to put your big boy pants on and hit a golf shot. And when you get it right in those conditions, that I find that to be the most satisfying of the golf that I play. And I hit a terrific drive. I hit it to the very front of the green. I had the longest putt I had all week, and 3-putt, unfortunately. But it was on the tee, you don't get a break. On the second shot, you get even less of a break. It's like, oh, you've got this long, narrow green. You've got bunker on one side, you've got heather on the other, you've got heather back. You're really, the only miss you can hit is short, and you just got to kind of hit a golf shot. And you can get away with shots for the first few holes. Like, I don't want to say it's a gentle handshake, but you can kind of fumble around a little bit if you need to, but that's the first hole that really tests you. And you get a little bit of a break after that until the back 9 when you have to go back into the wind. But that one for me was the wake-up call of, oh, okay, we got conditions out here. It's time to play some golf. Strap in. And I did not. Other than that hole, things got away quickly from me. But it was a fun reminder to realize that even though this is a resort, it can play extremely difficult.
Yeah, the one thing that's tripping me out on these flyovers that I'm projecting on our recording here, like some of the scales, like because they're drone shots, they make the holes, like particularly number 5 here that we're looking at, they make this hole look a lot bigger than it actually does. And then also made me realize one thing that I think was for me like kind of a common thing that my brain was going through throughout all the courses. There was like certain parts of holes that I don't even remember because I don't know whether it was like I was too focused on looking at the surrounds or whatever, but like I totally forgot that we had this like bunker out on the right here, even though I think one of the guys in our group hit it in the bunker. I can't quite remember who it was.
Yeah, in reality, that approach shot looks like you've got like a 10-yard wide slot to hit it into, and you, as a first timer, you have no idea what's out there. You don't know the bunkers there. You don't know the heather. You're just like, all right, well, here we go.
Did we lose Jack? Kind of looks like he's frozen.
That would be a bummer.
Our host is gone.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll keep going while we see if we did lose him. All right, Rod, what was your favorite hole at Bandon?
16 to look at. 9 was where I changed my approach to the game, and I ended up birding the hole. So I had like a spiritual moment there where I was like, put the ego aside and start doing what's working out. So I really enjoyed that just from a psychological perspective. It was like, again, like humbling and pretty exciting for me to kind of flip my mindset and try things differently. But 16, I think as Dom alluded to, and probably everyone else who knows Bandon would say, is just a beautiful golf hole. I mean, I had never seen anything like it in my career. Yeah. And you, Alex? Jack's back, it looks like.
Yeah, we got Jack back. I got the stereotypical answer 16. I think it's just, it epitomizes Bandon to me. The bunkers that kind of cut across the middle of the fairway are awesome, and then it's a fairly attackable green. And then we had a favorable wind on that hole, so a lot of people were able to get to it and get close to it on their tee shots. And since it's resort golf, it's got that wider fairway to it. It allows people to be a little bit more attackable, at least on 16. And I do think that 17 is an amazing hole. I also secretly like 7. I think that big dip down into the fairway, and then you have to hit it way up onto the green with kind of a hidden green. You're not sure exactly how it's moving, and then we had a back left pin, so it's in a big bowl, and if you missed it from there, you're putting pretty much down into the bowl, and then you can either put it off the green or you can put it super close, and you just have to really be technical and really lag it up there. It made that hole more memorable for me because it was so neat being able to like walk up the hill and then be able to go into that green and see it. So that one was kind of a little bit of a dark horse for me.
Did you guys have? I do have one part of Bandon OG Bandon that I actually thought was not necessarily out of place, but it wasn't really my flavor. I'll try to pull it up on hole 3. You guys remember all those like thorny bushes? Yeah, like that's probably my least favorite thing about the golf course was those stupid bushes. Mainly because I found it on 3 and I was like, I mean, I get why it's here, but it just closed off some of the spaces for me, and I'm like, I get it. I'm just not my favorite thing.
It's
what
a
about
short
you guys?
par 5, Jack. What do you want? You gotta have something out there.
Yeah, it was also like I think JD found some of those bushes a couple times in that round that we played together. So I was like,
But it's
man, I
on
can't
both
have my
sides,
partner.
right?
Yeah,
It is tough from that sense.
yeah,
Especially because that drive, you're up high, you're hitting down, you're totally exposed. So anything that you do with your ball flight's just going to be magnified by whatever the conditions are.
yeah. Any least favorite parts about the golf course at all for you guys?
Yes. 18. 18 is a disappointment. So it's a
Mm,
shame you have to go from 15, 16, 17, and then 18 is kind of a lazy looking playing par five. Like, it's kind of an easy five. I think, obviously the goal is to maybe get there in two. But I think of the golf courses at the resort, the par fives at Bandon Dunes are probably not the strongest because nine is
mm,
also sort of similar. It's pretty straightforward. So I think that was the only thing that was disappointing. And that's not even that disappointing. It's hard to beat 15, 16, 17, and then get to 18.
yeah, that was also something that was slightly disappointing to me was that finish, but I get it. They ran out of ocean holes. They couldn't put a finishing hole in the ocean. Otherwise, you'd have to walk back like 500 yards back to the clubhouse. So we get it, David McClay kid. Um, all right. I think from what I understand, the next golf course we played was probably the consensus top ranked um, favorite out of everyone, and we're talking about Bandon Trails. So straight off of finishing at OG Bandon, headed off into Trails. The one thing, what did you guys think of the infamous shuttle system? Did you guys have like I had my car, so I was most of the time I was driving to the courses, and only took the shuttle once or twice throughout the week. But um, I know a lot of you guys took the shuttle system. So any thoughts on that?
Jack, you and I are in the same boat. I think we drove everywhere. David, you might have been in the
Yeah.
same boat too because you had a rental car as well. So Dom and Rod are kind of the only two ones that were able to do it. And I think that we'll have to maybe we'll have to circle back to the shuttle system because I remember that right after Bandon, OG Bandon, we had to sprint over from OG Bandon to Trails to make sure that we made the tee time that we had assigned. So I know that um, like David and I were pretty much running down 18 to try and make sure that we could get there because David was the first off on the Trails group and it ended up sucking because we were the last group off at OG Bandon. Um,
Mm,
and we're not a slow group, but it's just when you have like 4 hours and 45 minutes in between each round, it's like you have to make sure you finish in 4.5 hours. And we weren't waiting on holes, but it was with the wind, it made it so much harder for you to even just play the golf course. So
yeah. I think add the multiplier of like it's everyone's first time, so you're kind of like, oh shit, yeah, like it's almost like running through an unfamiliar airport. I would say is kind of the feeling I had on day one and day two there. Um, so Bandon Trails, bef- in case he has to drop for his bedtime, we'll get Rod's first thoughts first on Bandon Trails because he has a pretty freaking cool story on that golf
I'm not
course.
leaving until the podcast is done recording. It's like this is so nostalgic being with you guys. So no chance. I'm gonna sound unless you want me to, Jack. If you want to talk
No, you're
shit.
good. So what'd you think
um,
of Trails, man?
yeah, it was a beautiful walk. Um, so I'll just cut to the chase. I mean, so I ended up on the second hole. It's a par three with a nice elevated tee box. Just getting my first hole in one. I'll just say it how it is, and it was hilarious because everyone in my flight. So it was Dom, Nick, and Rick. They all threw darts. Dom, I think, ended up like 3 feet from the hole, maybe less than that. Dom, do you remember? I think you were just a tap in
I
birdie.
wish I was that close, but I
Not
was
that
probably about
close.
like seven or 8 feet because I remember distinctly I missed my putt.
Okay. Okay, so well, in my eyes, I was like, oh my God, these guys all just hit the green. I was shanking balls left and right the entire day until I started like bunting, every club in my bag to make it through OG Bandon. As I get up to this tee box, watch these guys tee off. I'm like, shit, what am I gonna do? I look at Rick just to get my head right, and I, uh, I took a 5 iron. I think the hole was playing to the flag like 160. I think from the green tees. Um, I took a 5 iron, which is hilarious because today my 5 iron's going a lot further than that. But I tried to bunt it off the tee on a par three with a 5 iron, and I didn't even bunt it well. I hit I basically topped it and saw this thing just slice off the tee box, and I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. But deep down, I was like, wait, that actually looks okay. And sure enough, like I land just short of the front of the green. Yeah, I think you're doing the flat right now. I think the pin was actually, we had a front pin. It was like
Yeah.
front middle pin, and I landed just short of the green. And the ball just ran up there, and before you know it, it drops. And I loved you guys because everyone was so freaking excited. I was like processing what was going on, and like I had everyone cheering, and it was just I'll never forget it. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna jump ahead and just say that was my favorite hole, Jack. Sorry. Um,
It's all
maybe my
good.
favorite hole of the whole trip. I mean, it was just special. I mean, a hole in one obviously is, bucket list, I guess, as it goes, but more so the experience of being with, you guys, the people in the flight, and then freaking people were like high-fiving me. And I just met everyone, mind you, right? So it was like, people were like hugging me and giving me high fives. I was like, I've never been more excited to buy beers, once this round is done. So yeah, that was my story. And I think one last thing I'll say, just funny how this works out. And I am coming, off a 3-day Grateful Dead run with Dom in Golden Gate Park. So excuse the philosophical statement here, but Ashton was asking us on the first day when we got to Bandon, like the town of Bandon, to have lunch from the airport. He was like, what course is everyone most excited to play? And I didn't really know shit about anything. I was like, Bandon Trails, because Roger Steele was like, Bandon Trails is kind of like the sleeper course at the resort, and kind of just said that like, half-heartedly, and sure enough, it turned into a pretty awesome tale. So
That's
that's the story. Yeah. Number two at
yeah.
Bandon, I got a little plaque from the resort to commemorate the occasion. Thanks to Nick, I saved my ball. My dumbass probably would have teed off with it on the next hole and shanked it, shanked it OB. But yeah, I mean it was special. And then I did a little research. Titleist sent me like a little bag tag. It says like hole in one, Titleist AVX, whatever ball I was playing. So really cool and awesome experience.
Yeah, that was like we were the group ahead of you guys, and it was like, I think me and David were on the back tees. As soon as we heard it, like we just heard a bunch of cheering. We were like, "Did someone make a hole in one?" We walk over. There's like all the tee shots were pretty close to the pin too, and we were like, "Holy shit, those are some darts!" And like somebody just made a hole in one out of that whole group.
See you guys
So it
just
was-
losing your minds, high fiving here and there. It's just like, and look, like from my perspective, I'm gassed. Like I just ran to get to the first tee. Like Auntie threw me a sandwich as I was walking off the tee so I could get some sustenance. Like energy's low, and as soon as I hear you guys going nuts, I'm like that's what we needed. That we needed that for our back nine. So Ron, thank you for bestowing us with the energy to get it going.
I gotta thank Dom, and again, special thanks to Rick. If anyone wants to know what Rick did to me, we can connect on Instagram or something.
Yeah. You can let him know, man. He let you hit the Benjamin or something,
The
whatever the
Benjamin,
magic
yeah.
was.
Yeah. Blue Dream.
That's probably
Ca-
It was
Stock
funny
up on
too
some
because
Blue Dream.
it was funny too because we were going to do a Stableford for as a side game for the entirety of this event, and then we ended up changing to skins because it was going to be a little bit easier to keep track, and that was a net 0 for you. So that was also pretty awesome that that it ended up being that way, and I'm glad that you got the payout for that skin.
Yeah.
That would have been sick if someone else dropped the hole in one and had more pops than Rod.
I think the
Yeah,
good
so-
thing is that he was pretty safe in this group, thankfully. This group is this is a pretty strong low handicap group, and Rod made his case for probably the shot of the weekend. That was the shot of the weekend for sure.
No
So
doubt.
It was a good one. Thank you, fellas. It was a team effort, frankly. I was inspired. I swear, Dom, I think teed off right before me, and he call it 7 feet Dom, if you will. I was like, oh my god, now I gotta hit the ball. Like my headspace was really bad. I was like telling you guys earlier, like I was like I went through the ringer, like I bunted my way through OG bin, and I pulled my first drive at Trails. I hit it well, but I pulled it OB, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I just can't catch a break. And then, to have that relief on 2, I was like, yeah, right on. Golf is a hell of a game.
Rod, how did you play the rest of the round?
It was like score-wise, it was my best round. I broke 100 on that course.
Oh yeah.
I think, Dom, did we push our match? Because it was Nick and
Yeah.
I versus you and Rick, right?
It came down to the last putt on 18,
Last putt.
and
Yeah.
my birdie putt swung by a little bit, and we halved.
Yeah, it was fun though. David, I definitely had some adrenaline pumping through my veins after, that special occasion.
Usually after a hole in one, like all hope is lost. Forget about your score. And the fact that you had it so early, like you got stuck in and had your best round. Like I find that part just as impressive as making the hole in one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know that part. That's pretty cool.
yeah, it was fun. I'll never forget it. The scorecard's quite a sight, but I'm looking at it and like, there's a 10 on there. There's a couple 8s. But then there's a 1 that's got like double circle on it. So I'm just like, this is funny. And shout out to Nick also because he was pumped up after that. I think more than I was. Frankly, he was like catting me around the course as if I was going to be able to hit the shots he was telling me. And it was just a great experience, man. Like you guys really, are great people and tremendous golfers. Like I'm not saying that loosely. So.
I will co-sign Nick being like probably the hype man of the group. He was so genuine in his like good shots and like it felt great to play with Nick, and I was fortunate to play with him often. So I'm glad you had the same experience.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts on Bandon Trails? Again, like I think consensus, it's like pretty high up on a lot of people's lists.
I am going to be the hot take here. It's not high on my list, but we'll get to I'm assuming that we're going to do like a full recap of which courses that we are, so I'll hold off on that to the end, but get to wait and hear about that later.
Okay. What were you guys's? Like for me, Trails was my favorite walk. Prior to the Bandon trip, like I'd been on Ashton's bachelor's party. There's a couple of courses there that I really liked walking, or rather, I loved the routing and stuff. But also played the Preserve down in Carmel for the first time. I think 2 weeks before Bandon, and I was like raving to Ashton. I was like, "Oh, like dude, like this is one of my favorite golf walks ever." And then throughout that whole first round at Trails, I was like, shit, man, it's like 1 and 2, and I don't know which one is 1 and 2 because that walk is so fun and so special. I like my favorite thing about the course isn't necessarily like it has. I think it has 16, maybe 17 really good holes. It was like the routing kind of takes you through it, which, like, I don't know how else to say it, but it's just such a, like, I think it's a really good routing that gets you lost in the trails, which I really liked about that place. Especially, like, those little, like, hidden, like, trees that you can walk around and walk through to get to the other holes. Like, that was, some of my favorites, like a bunch of variety of shots that you play. And then the other thing I didn't get to talk about, like, one of the things with Bandon as a resort was, like, it's the scale of the holes that really, like, kind of tripped me out. I'm struggling to remember. I think it's 4. Like, the first time, like, we stepped up to 4, I was like, what is this golf hole? Because it's a blind tee shot, right? Yeah, I think 4 is the blind tee shot. And then, like, you just get over the mounds.
4, right? Oh, no,
Yeah,
it is
with
the blind one that
yeah,
kind of goes over that. Yeah.
yeah. So, like, that hole specifically, I was like, I I I didn't, like, look at the scorecard and I was like, what is this, like a 600 yard par 5 or something? And then, yeah, I think 15 was also kind of gave me that feeling. Was it 15?
Yeah, it should be.
Par.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
16
similar.
was.
It's similar. Well, 16's the par
Oh,
5.
yeah, like that scale of, like, holy shit, this is a really long hole, but as you walk it, it's like the visual trickery of it was really amazing to me. So Trails definitely for me, like, the on my list number 1 on the golf course. And I could name probably like 3 or 4 different favorite holes. Like, I didn't play 16 too well both rounds that I played there, but I really like that par 5. It's grandiose and demands a lot of really good shots from the tee shot all the way to your approach shots. So, Dom, I'm curious to hear what you think, because you're the guy I know who loves trees on a golf course. So that definitely had the most trees throughout the whole trip.
Yeah, I'm like the golf version of the Lorax. I want all the trees. Um, I knew because of that I would enjoy Trails. Ashton knew I would like it, and it didn't disappoint. It is my favorite, technically. I mean, it's up there with Sheep Ranch. They're 2 very different courses, but the fact that it feels like you're in a cathedral, really, like the trees are just so tall and they surround you, and you feel like you're alone, but in a good way. It's very quiet. It's peaceful. It's like vibrant, especially those neon orange flags that they have. And I think everything, like, just blends really well. Like, the colors really hit you, especially, like, you go from number 1 and you don't really know what you're getting into, and then you get to number 2 and it just kind of bursts. I think they have the best par 5s, like, as a whole, or not par 5, sorry, par 3s. I think it's the best set of par 3s on the property. And it is a great walk. There's not much more I can compliment it on. I think 14 is always going to be an argument whether you like it or not, but I do think it's probably one of the most beautiful golf holes on property as well. It just makes you appreciate, like, where you are and what you're doing and what a golf course can be. So overall, I think it punches above its weight.
I think we played it in the afternoon and into golden hour, which amongst the golf courses, that one really shines in that light. With all of the trees and the light filtering, it's it's a really special place to be. That with that kind of light, and I think that adds a lot to it. From a conditions perspective, it's more protected from the elements than other golf courses, which was very welcome after getting blown off the map at Bandon. And I think this is a hallmark, at least in my experience, of Core Crenshaw golf courses. But the bunkering, especially the visuals off the tee, I think are the best on property. And arguably one of Core Crenshaw's best works from that perspective as well. It's something I always admire, but I go to 3, that first par 5, that has just wonderful bunkering. It's inviting, but it's not necessarily an easy hole. But it frames really well. some of the holes around the turn, like 8, 9, 10, 11. Again, you have great bunkering that looks really wonderful, and it plays really wonderful and draws your eye towards trouble, but not in a way that like will get you in trouble if you're paying any sort of attention. So I admired that the most about it, and again, being with this group in those conditions and that light, that was probably the most reflective I was the entire time we were there. Of wow, this is a really special thing, and we're so lucky to be able to enjoy something like this, especially amongst people who are like-minded. So it is my favorite, no question. The consensus agrees with that, but I wanted to highlight the context of why that is. There's like a couple of holes. I don't love the tee shot on 16, but I do like the whole design. It feels amongst a level set of designs that are, I'd say, fairly traditional. It kind of feels like the one hole that they did acid on. And I like it for that. I think it's like you kind of get shook up a little bit, and then you get 17, which is this downhill par 3, which, like Dom said, all of these beautiful par 3s, but that one is by far my favorite on the whole property, especially with the setting sun just kind of falling over the trees. We have some wonderful photos from that, and we had it tucked in the left front, which is absolutely a sucker pin, but God, it was fun to go at. Also meant a lot of the matches had a lot going on that hole, which was very exciting. So I'll stop babbling here, but yeah, I think for a lot of reasons this is a sensational golf course, and we were fortunate to play it in the right conditions at the right time of day.
David, I could listen to you babble on about a golf course the whole time. I was trying not to interrupt there. I was like, oh man, it's like listening to a really good lecture about Corey Crenshaw, basically. Any other final thoughts on Bandon Trails before we move on to day 2?
I do want to just give a shout out to my caddy. When I called the morning of at Bandon, I just asked, I was like, it's a possibility I can get a caddy at Bandon Trails? And they're like, yeah, sure. And I get there and they're like, oh, you have a legend today. And his name is Cowboy. And he was a former PGA Tour and LPGA Tour caddy. He basically is only there in peak season. He lives in Arizona the rest of the year. So if you're there during peak season and you want an awesome walk with some laughs and some stories, ask for Cowboy. It turns out he didn't necessarily say this. I had to look it up because he mentioned he was in an ESPN article or Sports Illustrated. But he was the first caddy to use like data to help his players plan and strategize, because he came from an IT background. So he was like using computers back in the 80s to help, figure out game plans to play in tournaments. So I thought that was, in addition to Rod's hole-in-one, like that just made the round just that much more enjoyable, from an energy standpoint, is to have a caddy there, especially in the second afternoon or second round of the day.
That's pretty cool. I have to look up that article too. Did not know that.
Shout out Cowboy.
Yeehaw! All right, Old Mac. Who wants to? I will admit, like the 2 courses again. Like I was way too wrapped up on like looking around at all the different sights and sounds and smells of the different courses. Old Mac was like, there's basically a blind spot for me on the middle, like 7 or 8 holes in Old Mac and the first 6 holes at Pack Dunes. So day 2 was definitely a little bit of a blender day for remembering it for me. But at least from what I recall, Old Mac was really fun. We had a good match going on. I think it was me and Nick versus Rick and Auntie, and that was also a very enjoyable walk. I'd say it'd be between Sheep and Old Mac, it would be my 2 or 3. I haven't quite decided. I'd love to play them both again to be able to decide, but be my second favorite course on property. it definitely had a lot of fun holes for me. Like I love a good drivable par four. And yeah, it was a pretty fun walk. An interesting routing. Probably I would say not my favorite routing out of all of them. That's the one knock I have on Old Mac. But um, I would love to hear everyone else's thoughts on the golf course.
I loved Old Mac. Um, I think that it was awesome to start off. You see and number one, you see the ghost tree out in the distance, and you can kind of see what you're going to be walking to. And nice. My favorite golf courses are the ones that start off with a subtle handshake. This is a great subtle handshake. You've got a medium short par four, where it's pretty straight away. You get to see the green, not a lot of trouble. Very wide resort golf, very wide fairway. Um, so it was nice to be able to start with that, and then the second hole is a par three, another nice little handshake, and then you walk and tee off on the third hole you hit over the ghost tree, and you just see what's way out in front of you, and that was to me like, especially this was the first round of the second day. That to me was like, wow, we really are here. Like this is exactly what we're gonna be walking towards the coast. We're gonna be having these massive like undulated fairways, undulated greens, going out into this massive golf course complex. I do agree with you, Jack. I think that the routing's a little bit weird in comparison to some of the rest of these courses, but the blind tee shot on three was absolutely amazing, going over the ghost tree, and then you're not exactly sure where you've landed. Am I in a good spot? And then the wind was also still a problem this day, and but it didn't feel like as bad as getting blown off the map as it was at Bandon. And this was probably one of my favorite. This is my favorite course, and the last stretch of holes is pretty awesome to me. Like the bell hole on 16, and then you're going back up towards 17. 18 comes all the way back towards the clubhouse, and this was just like the cherry on top for me at Bandon.
Yeah, Alex, I'll join you. I really thoroughly enjoyed Old Mac. I think because most of the golf course sits just a little bit below kind of the cliff edge, you get a little bit of protection from wind. Not much, but just enough to be able to manage it. And also, you have a lot of room to miss off the tee, which is very welcome in those conditions. I think that Old Mac plays the most like a traditional links course will. And sure, some of the template holes are from traditional links golf courses, but I found the routing very enjoyable. I think they did a sensational job of making template holes and holes that wouldn't necessarily fit in this landscape work really well. I think Doe can be a little polarizing, but I think he did a pretty tremendous job here in terms of making it playable, but also challenging. It's scoreable, and the prevailing wind direction and the way the holes are structured, you get a pretty good mix of either straight down or straight into, which again is very reminiscent of your traditional links golf. So I thought it was a great time. You get wonderful vistas. You get a little bit of a break off the tee, which is very welcome, especially because we had pack in the afternoon this day, and an opportunity for everyone to have a few good shots and get some I think get some momentum going in the right direction going into a harder afternoon. So I really enjoyed it, and I don't know if this is my second, but it's probably pretty close in terms of rankings. I think some of the green complexes go unappreciated. Sure, you have the Biarritz and I think there's Redan and several others, but I want to say it's nine or 10. It's one of these par fours that are straight down. I think it's 10. That just has a ripper of a par four green, and you could, our wind, you could drive it pretty close to the hole or pretty close to the green. But it's this raised green. It's huge. It's got these big slopes, and like visually you're like, all right, I can run it off of one of three different slopes here. What am I going to do? And I feel like that's what I wanted most in Bandon, and I got it. I remember this hole specifically. It was in that kind of bowl on the right side, and you could really work it in there a number of different ways. And I was like, yeah, this is what I came here for. And I wish I had more of it. So that was my experience there. But Rod, I'm curious, what did you think about it?
I was humbled at Old Mac. Alex carried our team through our match against Ashton and Fabian. Thanks for coming out, Fabe. I gotta echo what Alex said. Like the walk on 3 after the tee shot, like coming over the hill and kind of seeing where we were was just exhilarating. But yeah, honestly, like I was just trying to stay positive on that course. I found it pretty challenging, frankly. I think I would say out of all of the courses, that may have been the toughest track for me. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, or perhaps it's just me, but I'd love to play it again. Let me put it that way. Nothing more really. I was just trying to stay present and do my best to contribute. And I think I sunk a putt towards the end of our match to kind of push, or maybe Alex, do you remember? I think I had a kind of long putt there, but anyhow,
We did push.
Yeah, we did push at the end. So anyhow, yeah, not much more to add there on Old Mac. The logo is sick, David. I love your hat. That's a good one. So
yeah, by far the best logo. Well, no, I think Shorty's is the best logo, and then Old Mac.
Yeah.
But maybe we can have a power rankings later.
Since we've talked about it a couple times, I will say, like, I think it made it a lot more engaging to have like some kind of game going on amongst the group the entire time. That was one thing that like probably in like the first like 2, maybe 3 golf trips I've ever taken, we're kind of just like we'd do our matches or whatever, but having some kind of team match format made it really fun and really engaging. I think specifically for me, like Trails was really fun with playing with Chris Hussey. As far as our match, we had a pretty sick strategy going on that we realized on the 3rd hole. We're like, actually, this is a pretty good strategy on playing this match together. And then both Pack and Old Mac too was really fun playing with Nick and JD at Pack Dunes. So any like one thing we haven't really talked about, or I guess we've been talking about it, but any favorite holes specifically for Old Mac? I'll say for me, 9 and 10 was actually a fun stretch. I like those 2 holes in the middle. Like probably most people are going to say 3, but 9 and 10 were really fun. I remember what you're talking about with 10, David, because I think I drove it far enough left that I had a short, like, I think I had maybe a sand wedge in, and I was looking at the hole placement, and I was like, oh man, I've got a couple options. I can like be cute and try to bump it up there, or like try to throw it up really high. And I really like that hole, number 10 and 9 as well. Let's see. So
3 is my favorite hole on property, personally. It's just the way that the tree's your aiming point to a large extent, and then you go to the top of the hill. You see pretty much 80% of the golf course right in front of you. So that to me is a big reason why I really enjoy that golf course. And then also the second shot is not super easy because it's so undulated from coming off the hill that you have to make sure that you play a nice shot, and it's still a wedge in, but you've got to be pretty precise with some of the place, especially where the pins are placed in Old Mac. You got to be really precise on your second approach shot to make sure that you can score there.
Okay. Dom, any thoughts about not having enough trees at Old Mac or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I wish there were more trees than gorse because that gorse will eat you up. That road hole, I hit my ball literally right into it, but I didn't realize it was 40 yards long. Or if it isn't, it feels that way when you walk around it. But I really enjoyed Old Mac. I think it's an interesting course because I think it can be polarizing for, like Rod said, it's hard, right? But I didn't feel that it was hard, but I was playing with David. We thought it was hard because we couldn't make any birdies. Like we were hitting our shots where we thought we wanted to, but we didn't always get the outcome that we wanted. And I think based on your experience of, how well you played that day, or maybe your ability to remember some of the holes, like especially in the middle of the course that aren't exactly like memorable, I think that's why the personal rankings tend to differ, either being Old Mac is your favorite or your least favorite, because some stuff is forgettable, some stuff is very memorable, some holes can be really hard, or you can get a really good bounce or a good outcome, and you can make an easy birdie. And I think that's why I would go back, because I think you can play it as many times and you can have the same or a different outcome every time. It's not very consistent, which is a good thing. I don't think it's bad by any means, but I really enjoyed the par fives specifically. Like I actually really like 17, even though it doesn't really look like a majority of the rest of the golf course being on the other side of the dune. But I think like that tee shot's a lot of fun. There's like that radio tower out there you have to aim at, and then you have some railroad ties, which is like visually just stimulating. So even though it's probably not the most famous par five on the course, I think it was my favorite. So there's some like gems that I think each individual person might pick out that might differ from the rest of their group.
Yeah, 17 rips. I think that's a great par five. And I would be remiss if we didn't mention how easy it is to be Dom's partner and caddy for him. You just say, hey, I need you to hit it here 15 feet right of this pin, and he just nails every time. No big deal. So if you're looking for the easiest loop in the world, like Cowboy had the easiest loop he's ever had in his life by just picking up his bag. He's just like, all right, well, should be no problem at all. So yeah, shout out to Dom for being a great partner and being a great listener. I very much appreciate that.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. I actually only play well when I have a caddy or someone helping me. It's when I'm on my own, it's when it gets difficult. So if anyone wants to keep doing it for me, I'm happy to employ them.
Yeah, look, we gotta. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I was gonna say, at Old Mac we almost had a death too. I don't remember which group it was. I know that it was Nick.
Oh yeah.
It was the Nick Bertossi group, and I know that the last group that where I was in, it was me, Fabian, Rod, and Ashton. And Ashton had hit a drive so good that it was down the wind, and I think it was his ball that flew 6 inches from in between the goalpost of Nick's head and somebody else's head. So that was a little scary, and we didn't even really realize it until people put their hands up and we're like, oh, we may be able to hit them. So yeah. that was a little tough. But
I'll recount the story because the overhead view is actually almost exactly where that pin is. So 9 played super downwind, drivable par 4, and Rick and I had hit my second shot already because I ended up back here, and I pitched it to I think like 10 or 11 feet on the front pin here. And Rick's second shot was also somewhere in this neighborhood. So we were literally marking our balls. And I think I had just picked up my ball and like literally took a step back, and I look up and like there's a ball that like flies by behind Rick's head. And then I look at where the ball goes, and it like almost knocks Nick off of his putter, because he was putting from like way back here. And so it was Ashton's tee shot that actually ended up in a pretty similar spot as my tee shot, I think it was. And it was a weird like near death experience for 3 guys on the group ahead of that group.
Yeah, that was our bad, definitely for sure. But we know also that Fabian drove the green because
Yeah.
when we got up there, you guys had put it on the tee for him in the middle of the green. We were like, "Who's that?" And
Yeah.
we thought it was Ashton. Ashton at first, and it was like Ashton was in the back behind the green where you
Yeah.
had hit yours, and then Fabian was like probably 15 feet from the pin, right in the center to
Yeah.
a front right pin. Yeah,
He was like fresh off the jet at that point too, right?
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
that was second day too. He was fresh off the jet for trails. So yeah, but yeah, he had a caddy, Mason. Shout out to him. He was awesome. He caddied Fabian and I during trails. He was great and kind of showed us around the way for Old Mac as well.
Nice. That's the one thing I didn't do was take a caddy. Definitely something that I would love to explore. Like the next time I play both OG and Pack Dudes, I was going to say, was one of my notes I had for myself that I definitely want to do for the next time. But after that, similar to Trails, on day one, we had a pretty darn quick turnaround time. So quick, in fact, that the groups that were supposed to play against each other did not end up playing each other. I was very confused because I thought like I was supposed to tee off first, but apparently there were like two groups that already teed off ahead of us or something like that. So I ended up playing against, JD and I ended up playing against Dom and Fabian at Pack Dunes, which is our next course that we're going to talk about. As I alluded to in the beginning, again, one of the courses I'd like to play again with, like, I'll call it more presence, because the first like 6 or 7 holes, I didn't realize it till the third hole that like my blood sugar was really low, and I was like, why do I feel like this? And didn't notice myself that I hadn't eaten anything that morning through the first round except for like 2 snacks. So I'd love to have another crack at Pack Dunes, but I did. The one thing I did appreciate about Pack Dunes that I think most of the guys and most people that play it will probably echo. It's a freaking hard golf course, man. Like, some of the tee shots are like, hey man, like you have to place it here and like place your approach shot. Otherwise it's bogeys and double bogeys all day. The sight lines were, to be generous, I would say some of those sight lines off the tee boxes and approach shots were pretty dang intimidating. And I think that was, besides maybe Old Mac, I think besides Old Mac, the bounces on the fairways kind of, I think, killed me on that golf course. Because it was like, hit like what I would feel like was a good tee shot or a decent tee shot, and then I'd be like, I don't even know how this ball ended up here, type of deal. So I think very, very hard, very intimidating sight lines, but the only other thing I would say, it was probably my least favorite routing on the golf course. Like definitely number 5 out of all of them. And again, maybe that's because the first 6 holes were a blender, but I think, like some parts of the routing got really weird for me on that course.
Hey Jack, I think in our group there was a moment. I think it's the back. I don't remember which hole. We're going to par 3, and we'll have to look at the course map. I'll have to look at it. I thought I had gotten lost from the group. Alex, do you remember that?
Oh yeah. So what happened was we were on. I'm trying to remember what the part 3 is.
I almost sent an SOS in our group chat. I was like, guys, I'm lost.
Yes, we were coming off 13, and Ashton, Rick, Rod, and I were all playing together. We coming off 13, and you have to walk back towards the fairway on 14 to get up to 13, because if you have a cart like Rick and I did, you can't go around the back behind 13
Yep.
to get up to 14, you actually have to go back on the fairway and then walk up 14. Or if you're carrying a bag, there's a shortcut route through the dunes on the right hand side. If you're our video watcher here, you can take that route up there. But yeah, we went around the backside, but it said maintenance only, and I didn't realize it. So we got about probably 200 yards in and said, crud, we can't really go this way, so we had to backtrack, and that was probably not great from my call to say like, oh, we should just try and see if like this is a shortcut route. And Rod was like standing on the tee, is like, where is everybody here?
So I don't know if that's like a course layout thing. I don't, I can't speak to course layout too much, just given my experience, right? But I was like, is this a design flaw, or have we just like chosen the wrong path, or I didn't know. But yeah, I mean, I will say this, just my thoughts on the course. Like, I would love to play Pack Dunes again if I could go back. I think Dom, you posed a hypothetical question, like if you had one round to play at Bandon Dunes, where would it be? I would probably pick Pack Dunes because I thought it was exhilarating. Frankly, I thought it was a beautiful course. Definitely tough conditions, but really, really beautiful. And yeah, I'd love to have another go at it. Gotta thank Ashton. I think he gave me a heads up. He's like, like this is gonna be a tough track, so like play up one tee, and I did that. I can't say confidently that it made it much easier, but it definitely it made it easier, a little bit easier for me, and I appreciate that guidance. I felt like the Padawan, like getting the direction from, my mentor. So it was awesome.
Ashton has some really good advice for you too. We were on 17, which is the par 3 that Ashton really loves, and you hit hybrid the first time, didn't get it there, and then we told you hit another one and told you to hit driver
left,
because you were able to bunt your driver left, and the wind was coming left to right off that green, and you ended up putting it on the green for I think it was a bogey or a double, but it was awesome to just see that advice actually play out the right way.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta clarify. I was saying, Alex, that Old Mac, I sunk like a pretty long putt to push the match. It was Pack Dunes on 18, crunch time. So, anyhow.
Yeah, that was awesome. You putted it from probably about 60, 70 feet on the back of the green on 18 to help have the match. So that was, or I think it was to win the match actually against Rick and Ashton. So that was pretty awesome. David, what did you think of Pack Dunes?
So I think you guys have made tremendous points about it, and I think Pack Dunes is a terrifically difficult golf course. Especially, I think we had the highest winds of any round. Well, Sheep Ranch might have been as high, but it was blustery while we were there. And what struck me was how impossibly difficult that golf course would be if those greens were fescue rather than the POA, bent, mix, whatever they were. They were by far the slowest that we played, and they were by far the most receptive. In those conditions, a true blessing, really. Like it made the golf course playable and still enjoyable. But if they wanted to make it hard, they could go fescue like they have on Bandon Dunes and just blow people out to sea. I think you get the coastal views and some of the coastal holes that are really sensational. A few of the back tees were closed on some of those par 3s, and there's some interesting routings like midway through the round. There's like back-to-back par 3s. There's a couple of holes that will take you inland, and a couple of connector holes that I thought were pretty well done for what they were, but 18 I know is a pretty polarizing hole. I think 17 is a terrific par 3 again. The par 3s that are 17 on the property have been pretty sensational thus far in our review, but 18 I know it especially from the back tee, and Auntie and I played the back tees at Pack, and we played an unmarked tee, which is I guess the main tee on the left side, which makes it a very difficult drive to the point where it was downwind, but you can hit a high towering draw over the center bunker, but even that ends up in the right rough. So it feels like it probably needs a little bit of touch-ups, I'd say, at this point to really make it even better than it is. But I really enjoyed it. It's probably I came into this trip thinking it might be my favorite, just based on reviews of like, oh, this is a real ass kicker, and it's not long, but it will wake you up. And even in those conditions, I didn't feel like it was harder than Bandon Dunes, at least the way that we played it. That was my experience anyway. So enjoyable. I think the grass varieties are the right ones for the golf course, especially the size of the greens. And I enjoyed that it combined a lot of elements that we saw across some of the more, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but themed golf courses like Trails, where that was very inland and very like you're walking through a forest, or Sheep Ranch, where you're kind of out on these big plains, things like that. It was a very good mix, so I enjoyed it.
What did you think of the split greens on 9? We played the upper green for this trip, and then I'll probably ask the same thing about 10, which is technically supposed to have an upper and a lower tee box on the par 3 there. What are your thoughts on that entire thing, David?
We played the upper tier. Getting to the green, like I had a great tee shot that was probably 30 or 40 yards. We were downwind and was able to get it pretty close, but that green runs front to back, if I'm not mistaken, and like from one side to the other. I don't remember which side. I want to say it's from left to right, and it made for putting on it just this real trip, because all the land's going one way, but the green's facing this other way, and it, in terms of the match that we were playing, it made a difference, because I think Hussey drove it up there like more or less on the green and hit a good pitch shot that just ran out. Because something that I experienced, I don't know if you guys experienced, I'm curious to hear if you had the same experience, was you had to pay attention to your chip shots and your putts, anything over, I'd say, 5 to 10 feet. Like, you had to go to the other side and take a look. Otherwise, you were probably going to grossly misread it or get the speed completely wrong. And I felt like I did a good job of that once I got through Trails. But before then, you kind of take your eye off the gas for a second. You will make a bogey, just straight up. And it's not because you didn't hit a good shot. It's because you didn't pay attention. And I am curious to see if I'm alone in that, or if you guys felt the same way.
I can't put anything towards that. My putting was awful that week. I was putting everything by 10 feet, so I don't.
And I say that with a caveat
answer.
that I don't think I've read greens as well as in my life than I had that week, especially the last 2 days. I felt like I could not miss on a read. I had it right, except Dom on 10. I gave you a terrible read.
I wasn't going to let you leave without
You
that.
made the second putt that was like 12 feet, and you just drilled it right in the center. So I think that was my soft spot. But outside of that, I was pretty good on the greens.
Yeah, I think it's just hard. Like, course to course, everything's a little bit different. I struggled mightily at Pacific Dunes because they were slower. They were a little more sloped. Obviously, the wind would also play a difference, or play a factor, I should say. So that was one of the more difficult courses to putt, I think. I think Old Mac and Bandon Trails are the easiest ones. You get the truer roll. I think Bandon Dunes, just because of the shape it was in, gave you a better chance to. And then Sheep Ranch is, even though there's 5 courses, it might be number 8 in terms of being able to putt it, and we'll get there. But Pac Dunes was definitely not the top.
I wasn't a fan of how bumpy they were for Pac Dunes. I know that it made them more receptive, but I felt like it was very difficult coming from Old Mac to go to Pac Dunes and putt there. I think that if we had flip-flopped, it would have been a little bit easier. But since we started at Old Mac, then went to Pac Dunes. It was almost night and day within the same property.
I wonder. I don't know if anyone else heard about it, but like I think Pac Dunes was recently, like their greens were the ones that were most recently redone. Or am I getting that confused for one of the other courses? Like that's kind of what I put it to, is that the greens were either redone and like they grew out new grass on it or something in the last like 12 months.
I think that's sheep, because they're
Was it
moving
sheep?
it from
Oh,
fescue to poa or something. So now it's a
mm,
hybrid. I don't know about pack dunes though. I think they were. It was just
okay.
the afternoon. They have to be
Yeah.
a little bit slower because of the wind and the slope, and we just caught it on a bad day.
Okay. Then I heard that wrong. So yeah, I kind of erased my memory of a lot of the putts and shots at Pac Dunes. Um, 4 was a great hole, I will say that. Electric tee shot. My third shot off the tee, or second shot off the tee, was really good. So I wish it was the first shot, but I like that. I think that's consensus. Most people will remember that tee shot with the Pacific Ocean right on your right side. Um, all right, moving on to any final thoughts on Pac Dunes at all?
I see why it's rated the number 2 public golf course in America, but it
Mm.
is. I see why, Dom. I know you're giving me that look of like I see why it's rated number 2. It's hard. It is very well conditioned. The holes are pretty memorable, but
Yeah,
the routing really ruined that golf course for me. The
yeah.
like the way that you have to wind through stuff, I was kind of like, this is not as nice as some of the other routing within the golf courses at Bandon.
Yeah, especially with the thing I'll add to that, like I love golf courses that makes you take out different clubs in the bag, like off the tee and into greens. I think that was the course that and trails also for me were like, oh yeah, I'm hitting different shots. It's not just like really, hey, pound driver here or whatever. But that's one thing I liked and remembered about it, and I definitely, it's top of my list to replay again, right next to um, Bandon Dunes and Old Mac for me. On to the final day, Sheep Ranch. I think pretty much in the context of the group play that was going on, we all had individual match play matches. I think my group was first off that day. Um, Curious to hear somebody else's first thoughts before I share mine about Sheep Ranch. I think Dom, you said it's one of your favorite ones, right?
Yeah, and I was the unfortunate recipient of you beating me by 8 holes, maybe, or like something close to that. The
You
match
got
ended
Steve
on like the
names?
13th hole. Something. The math doesn't math, but it was my
I
favorite,
think I
and
think at one point you were like, "Is the match over yet?" And I was like, probably in 2 holes or something." You were just that's the one thing I remembered about the match itself because I think I told you already. Like it was kind of like beating up on the nicest kid in class, and I was just like, "Sorry, Dom." It's like make a par, make a birdie. It's like, "Sorry, man." Like that was my hole again.
you earned it. You earned it. Usually you'd think after 2.5 days plus banding crossings, like your swing just leaves you. But the sad thing was like I couldn't chip and putt. You would think that you would get better at that over the course of a trip, and I got like that was by far the worst. I chipped and putted. I do think like the wind and the greens were a little bit of a factor. It was definitely
Mm,
user error, but that was really frustrating, I think, to not know how far a ball was going to roll out on a chip, how far it was going to roll out on a putt. And all of that I played terribly and I still loved it. And I think that has a lot to do with, the the scene, like where it is on the golf course, where it is on the property. You feel like you're on the edge of the world. It could have been 10 miles an hour more windy, and I still would have been fine because I think obviously that's
mm,
how they built it, right? Is to be one with the wind as opposed to really fighting against it. And I think it it obviously it's easy, or it can be easy because it's really out in front of you. There's no bunkers, but I thought it was a difficult enough golf course where you can have fun. Um, and I think the only difficulty was, yeah, the conditions and the greens. But I think it was my favorite. It's there with Trails, even though they're completely different golf courses.
I do one thing before we get too deep into our opinions on it. Shout out to both me and Rod on the first hole. I think we dropped back to back like 50-foot putts, and we were so juiced on that first hole. It was pretty fun to do it as a pairing.
Both using the lab putters too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right?
The
Yeah,
Lab Boys.
the lab boys indeed. Yeah.
Do you guys
Pre-private
agree?
equity lab boys, mind you.
Oh yeah, that's right. We got 3 Lab Boys on the pod.
And 2 brooms in this room right now.
Street sweepers.
Do you guys
So
think that
important.
that's the best first hole on property?
I was gonna say, yeah, I think so. As an opening tee shot, like it was pretty exhilarating to me. Um, yeah, like if I remember it right, like from the tee box, it was semi blind, right? Like you can like you know starter was telling you like where to hit it, and I was like, all right, man, like I'll trust you. I'll try to hit it over there. Um, and then
Course
like you
on both
crest
sides.
on, yeah, gorse on both sides, trees there, and then like you as soon as you basically crest like past this skinny tree right here, it's just like holy shit, like kind of just hits you right in the face.
Yeah, I can get down with that take. I was gonna say OG Banded one, like I really like that green complex, but I think for the combination of the tee shot here as well as the second shot, like looking out to the ocean, seeing this big grain that kind of cambers away from the slope of the fairway, it's very cool. And also, like, you hit a shot astray, you're going to make a 7 or an 8 here. It's also a birdie hole. So I like that take. I think it's a good one.
I think from my perspective, I found Sheep to be the most forgiving out of the courses that we played. Um, I don't know if they were very wide fairways, but they felt a little bit wider. I felt like I felt a little more confident looking at the course, in front of me. Um, I loved, again, I'm a sucker for these like coastal holes, I guess. I like the layout there. Um, Dom, should we talk about how you know, you almost got killed on sheep? Because that was kind of scary.
Yeah,
I, uh, I saw that happen, and I was like, oh my gosh, the ball just flew right by me.
yeah, it's just a shame. Like, I guess it comes down to routing. Speaking of me asking if the round was almost over, but I actually was making my comeback up until that point, and it was it number 13, 12 or 13, the par five, and it's when you're on the tee, you can't see the people that are in the dip in the fairway, and so I was ready to hit my hybrid as my second shot into the green, and a ball just came bouncing past me on the right, so I had to step off. And I got all flustered because I thought like there was no way anyone could see me from below the hill, and so I was like, well, I'm just gonna have to hit. And then I hit it over onto the next tee box over there on the right of that red line. And so I go over there and I'm looking for my ball, and then another ball goes over my head because JD hit it over that tee box on his second shot. So someone was out to get me on that hole, and it's a shame because I really like it. It's a really cool hole. But that is where my match ended, and that is also where I almost met my end.
So my take on sheep is I think it is my on the bottom of my list and I didn't play particularly well, so I might be a little biased there. However, I didn't find, for the same reason I love Trails in Core Crenshaw and how they designed it, is the reason I don't necessarily like Sheep as much, because there is no bunker on the golf course. You have the grass bunkers, of course, but and they're okay. Like they can be penal. I got a terrible lie on that par 5 we were just looking at, and I think I made 6 after being greenside in 2. But having been fortunate enough to play Brambles a few weeks ago and seeing natural bunkers, but them actually being bunkers, that very much is my preference over a grass bunker. And I understand that fits the aesthetic. That was the intention. We're not going to have bunkers on this golf course, but I would prefer if they took the few grass bunkers that they had, put that kind of natural flat bottom bunker that may not be raked, but turn it into a hazard, and give some more definitive sight lines. That would be my one critique of the golf course. Outside of that, it's fine. And JD and I, our match was well over. He beat the brakes off of me, but we played 18 with one club. We picked one, whichever one we wanted, and that was the most fun I had all day. And I think that golf course would be a lot of fun to do like a half set on, or do some kind of game where maybe all shot. I think that would be a terrific place. If you're going as a group and you need an afternoon round that's not quite too high stakes, this is the perfect place to do it, in my opinion.
I agree. All shot sounds really fun at Sheep. Just there's so much forgiveness off the tee, and you get to be a little bit creative too with your approach shots, allowing some like just mind games and so much shenanigans happening on this golf course if that were to happen.
Yeah. One other thing about Sheep too, there were a couple of holes there. I think I'll point out, I think it was 14. Again, this flyover doesn't do it any justice, but I think this was a tee shot where it was also like the mound on the left is really just tall, and that walk up after, you're just like, oh, I'm gonna hit my tee shot here or whatever, and then you walk up it and you're just like, this, like from the tee box, the scale as you get to the green was really different. Like I didn't expect, like walking up that, I think it's this mound right here, to see that type of green complex there. It was really trippy in a good way, which I really liked. That was one of the things I really loved about that course for me was just some of those like really cool scaling shots that you would hit into greens and off tee shots.
This was up there for me. It's not number one, but I think this was a breath of fresh air as a golf course for me comparatively. Like since we played Pack Dunes the night before, this is the easiest rated golf course on this property for full 18. And it was so nice to play this after Pack, because I felt like I got my teeth kicked in at Pack. And yeah, sure, we're still playing with a buttload of wind, but this was nice because the grass bunkers can be a little bit difficult to maneuver, but you're not hitting out of these really, really soft beach sand like you could be at Pack. I remember at Pack, going back a little bit, when I was playing with Rick, it was, I think, the par 4 7th or 8th. He hit his ball into one of the bunkers and it was completely buried. Like we had to take a rake to find it, and it was on the very edge, and we had to reset it. And it was just, that to me was kind of like, holy moly, this is Pack like at its finest. This is how hard it's going to be. And Sheep Ranch was a nice breath of fresh air after Pack, so that we could have a little bit more of an enjoyable round to end the day, or end the big 18 hole, before we all got to kind of choose what we wanted to do after this. And for me, what made it so much more fun too was like 17. I was aiming off the coast on the left-hand side because the wind was playing left to right, and I remember whoever I was playing with, Ashton, Rick, and Chris Hussey, and Hussey and Rick look at each other on the tee box, and they're like, he's aiming 50 yards left, like over the dead tree. If you're looking as a video person, over that left hand side into the beach, and it was this. What made my trip was that I hit it so good that it came all the way back and hit it in the middle of the green, and it was just awesome. And then also walking up, since we were the last group, walking up 18, seeing everybody there was like that reminiscence of the cookout, of everybody sitting at the very top of the hill there, and just seeing everybody like watching us finish it out, and it was kind of made the trip for me.
That was an awesome moment, Alex. Being a spectator, watching you guys come in, I was like, and looking at everyone around me, I was like, this is freaking awesome.
Weren't you the one that also almost got hit too? Like, I think Ashton or somebody
Sitting on the ground or something. Yeah.
And nobody yelled for it because we did not know where it was going.
Yeah. I was gassed by the end of that round. Like, I think Jack was talking about, the intensity earlier. Like, I could barely walk I remember walking up 18. I was like, oh man, I had already decided I'm not playing another 18 in the afternoon because I was totally pooped. But I was gonna say I really loved at Sheep Ranch number 3, and I think it was 16. Those like short par threes. 3 was kind of weird with like if you hit it long, you end up on another green. I think it was was it 16's green? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shared green. Yep, you're on.
Yeah, I just love. I mean, I don't know if I've really ever played such a short par 3 for as long as I've been playing the game. So I was like equal parts intimidated and excited. I was like, my bunt may actually like get there. And then on 16, obviously, like just having the coast right there, and this is so beautiful. This hole is awesome. I love this one as well. These 2 holes really stuck with me to this day. So right along the water. Yeah.
A truly iconic double green. I think that goes without saying.
Mm-hmm.
David, did you and JD, I know your match was done, but did you and him hit like 2-iron or something all the way up to the right and try and throw it up into the air on that?
JD tried to hit a 2-iron cut as high as he could, like over the ocean, and then I tried to chip a 5-wood into the slope to get it to get to the hole, and neither of us succeeded. Not even close. But it was a fun. You said a breath of fresh air to describe the golf course after Packed Dunes, and I totally agree. It really is the opposite end of the spectrum of Packed Dunes in the best way possible, and a real palate cleanser, despite the fact that we had as high winds as we had all over the 3 days that we were there. And allowed for fun and creativity in however you wanted to enjoy it. I am regretful that I focused as hard on trying to play golf for the sake of score as long as I did in that round, as opposed to trying to enjoy just hitting shots and enjoying the property and the golf course.
Yeah, I think that was one thing I think it's probably on Bandon that like I realized. I was like, hey man, like 6th hole, I'm like, okay, like score doesn't matter here. Like I kind of just want to play the shots that like, from looking at a tee shot or an approach shot, it's like, what is the golf course or what is this hole asking for? And I'm happy to say like that was like one of the that was probably the second most fun thing about Bandon Dunes for me, was just being able to be there and like, hey, like this is a shot that the course is asking for. Like you can't really try to bully your way on the on the green or into the hole. Like you have to hit this shot in front of you, and that's one of the things that made it fun for me. The biggest thing that made it most fun for me was like getting to know all the guys that were on the trip, getting to meet new people, and play more rounds with people that I'd barely played any golf with. So as far as the overall trip, I think that's kind of where biggest thing that I got out of it was getting to spend time with all you guys that were on it. And I guess going into the closing part of the pod, what let's talk maybe like 3 minutes on overall rankings. Dom, I think we're all eager to hear your overall rankings first, and then I'd second to Alex Wong because it sounds like Alex has some hot takes on his ranking.
Sure. I don't think this will be super controversial. My top two are, Cheap Ranch and Trails. I don't have an order. They're 1A, 1B, and they can be interchangeable. I think Bandon Dunes would be my third favorite, and Old Mac is awesome, and I don't think it's necessarily like not good by any means. I think it's just number four. And Pacific Dunes just didn't do it for me. It gets a lot of buildup. I was under the assumption, having never been to Bandon, that was kind of where you have your spiritual moment was at Pacific Dunes. I personally didn't get that. I was also like, it was the afternoon round. I was really tired. It was really windy. Like I wasn't looking forward to getting my butt kicked. So that had a little bit to do with it. But all of that to say, I think it's interesting that my two favorites are completely different golf courses, and I just think that that's goes to show like how special Bandon is and what it has to offer. And I think, everyone's opinion, I think makes sense once you understand like what it is behind it. And I would never argue with anyone that said it was the complete opposite order of my rankings. I just think every course speaks to someone differently, and I think that's awesome that the resort offers what it does.
Yeah, so for me, I'm actually a little bit in the same boat as Dom, but I'm doing the pretty close to the opposite order. Old Mac was my favorite, and I want to preface all of this. I absolutely loved every single golf course that we played. Like these are probably some of the top like 10 courses in terms of condition. Actually still thought that the value for these courses was really good as well. As a resort guest, I don't know if you walk in off the street how much they are, but if I'm comparing them to the entirety of like San Francisco Bay Area golf or Monterey golf, or I've played Arizona golf a few times, like the value for these courses and what they offer is way up there in terms of a top 10 total list for me. But my order is Old Mac was my favorite, and then Sheep Ranch was number two, OG Bandon, Trails, and then Pack Dunes. Trails to like I know that Trails is a favorite within the group, for this group at least. Trails to me was awesome. It felt too familiar to home comparatively to some of these like link style courses that I don't get to play every day. Like my exposure to link courses is Spanish Bay, which is to a large extent not really even considered a links course at certain points. And I just felt like Old Mac was so impactful on my play. I felt like I played my best there, even I didn't score the best there. I felt like that was where I played the best, and then Sheep Ranch also. I loved how forgiving that golf course was in comparison to the rest of the property. Like, I'm not the best out of bunkers. This is like perfect for me as a golfer that really wanted a break from the harder golf that we had played. So it was kind of nice on how it ended. And then I know David, Auntie, and I played the Preserve and Shorties after. Just a quick little touch to those two. The Preserve was neat. It's definitely not worth the money, for sure. The Preserve is a really neat 13-hole golf course. Very much mimics a little bit of every single golf course within the property. And then Shorties was awesome, but God, the greens were in such terrible shape. Like, almost kind of where you're like, am I still in Bandon? Like, there's just parts of these greens that are brown and dead, and then some of they're trying to recover it by like spraying it green. So that was a little bit of a disappointment, but it was still a ton of fun. So,
Rod, for what is your list right now as far as the courses go? Curious to hear this
So,
one.
yeah, I've put Trails on top probably for the wrong reason. I think I appreciated the scenery. I appreciated the walk. I obviously had my ace, so I think Trails holds a special place in my heart. Um, it is actually sort of similar to courses that I play here in New York as well, like with surrounded by trees and well, yeah, nature, I guess. But I put Bandon second, OG Bandon, purely because if there is one round that changed my game, since I've left Bandon, it's that one. Again, I think it's like the spiritual side of it and like the humbling effect that it had. Obviously, I think, but it's lessons learned that I think I'll carry on through my, the rest of my golf game for as long as I'm playing. So I put Bandon second. Um, the reigning three, I don't know. It's a toss up, really. I would say Old Mac was my least favorite. I got totally screwed there. It was really tough for me. Again, I don't know if that's just it was the conditions or what. I really did not get along with it, or it did not get along with me. And I think Sheep and Pack Dunes. I'll put Pack Dunes 3 and Sheep 4. Pack Dunes was beautiful. It was really tough, but I would love another stab at it. I think also totally fun experience. I'll never forget like on the back. Alex, you remember it was like pretty cold and overcast, and Rick's got a bag full of goodies. He pulls out a flask and pours out 4 shots to like commemorate the round, and I was just like, this is awesome. This is what it's all about. So yeah, Trails, Bandon, Sheep, Pack Dunes, Old Mac. I think that's my list, Jack.
All right. David, what about you?
I'll run through them quickly. Trails number 1, Mac number 2, Bandon number 3, Pack number 4, and Sheep number 5. I think above all, and what resonates with me over this trip the most is I experience golf the way that I think a lot of people, myself included, experience music in movies. It has more gravitas. It has more feeling to it. And the way that we got to experience Bandon with a group of some strangers but fast friends, and getting to experience it in some of the difficult conditions but absolutely gorgeous, mind-bendingly beautiful weather that we had, really has cemented memories of this trip for forever for me. And I think that's why my ranking is the way that it is. Trails is number 1 because we got it at golden hour, because we got it at a stage where the last few holes, all the groups were kind of put together and we were able to talk to each other and have a good time and understand what was going on in the matches. And to me, that's what makes golf trips greater than the sum of their parts. Obviously, the golf is spectacular. Obviously, you could come out here and do it alone, but God, it's so much better when you do it with a good group of people. So that's my ranking and my takeaway. But Jack, take us home. What's your ranking?
Yeah, I mean, as I prefaced earlier, I think Trails and Sheep are kind of 1A and 1B for me as well. And then I would say Bandon and Pack. Again, I put those back to back from each other because I do really want to play them again with like a more golf present mindset, but I really did like those 2 golf courses as well. And then Old Mac would be just not for anything that's against it. It's just like, hey man, like you're at the bottom of the list because there's I think 4 other better golf courses there. And yeah, to echo everything you said, like being able to experience it for the first time with a really good group was the best part of the trip for me. Yeah, I guess like just a couple of finishing questions. Now that we've all played it for the first time, what do you guys like if you were given unlimited funds, basically, what would be your ideal itinerary for your next Bandon trip? I'll start it. The only thing I would basically change is like no 36s. or at least maybe just one 36 in the middle of the trip. So like play 18, play 36, and then play maybe like two different 18 hole days, just so um, I think this kind of echoes some of my thoughts on like how we do the cookout. Like I want to have a little bit more time to just like have some camaraderie and hang out on the golf trip, because oftentimes what I've found in the last um and you guys probably don't know this, like I've been playing golf since 2017. Like all the golf trips that I've done since I started playing golf like have all been like these like quick hit, like, hey, let's go play, four courses in like 3 days, with exception of the first two that I went with Ashton, Big Chris, and then the second one with Ashton, Big Chris, and Hussey with were all kind of a little bit spread out, so we all got to spend time together afterwards and hang out. So that would be the one thing I would say is like an ideal Bandon trip for me would be a little bit more spread out, have some time to hang out and maybe play some putting games and some of the courses, that type of deal. um, what about you guys?
Dom, I feel like you're right for this one. Let's hear it.
I may have missed that.
Dom, if you could pick no budget, how would you do the trip differently?
Oh, yeah, I feel similarly to Jack because we didn't get to play. Well, some of us didn't get to play the preserve or shorties. I think that just had to do with the scheduling, right? With there being five courses, maybe this was strategic on Bandon's part, but it makes it difficult to do 18, 36, 18 now. And so you
Mm,
kind of have to have an extra day, which, given your budget, sometimes it's just not possible. So I would definitely do like a warm up, preserve, 18, maybe one day, play 18 the next, maybe do an alternate shot, like you said, on the 36 hole day, and then do another 18. So I would think like 4 days is probably perfect as opposed to three. And maybe you don't need to get both short courses in, but give yourself enough time to like I didn't even go to Punch Bowl. So I don't know
mm.
what that's like. I heard it's awesome. There's just not enough physical time to do all of that. The energy and the your legs are a different scenario sometimes. But yeah, I would just add an extra day, I think.
Would you change any of the courses that you played in an order, or do you like the order that we played them in?
That's a good
Um,
question.
I think it was really, really good. I just don't want to play Pacific Dunes in the afternoon again, just because I would like to see what it's like in the morning and if it's a little bit calmer. So
Mm.
I think what I would do, even though I think Old Mac probably gets really windy, is do Bandon Dunes, Bandon Trails, Pacific Dunes, Old Mac, and then I would still do Sheep Ranch in the morning, even though I think we got weather that wasn't supposed to be normal. 30-mile-an-hour winds teeing off at 7:15. I don't think that's normal. So I wouldn't change it, honestly. I would just flip the second day that we had because I think Old Mac would also be a little more fun to play in the afternoon when you have, maybe you got beat up, you want a little bit more space and a little bit more room to breathe. And then you get to
Rod,
end at the steakhouse.
oh,
So that I
yeah,
think that works out perfect. You don't have to worry about like going back and forth.
yeah. I'll say before I throw it over to Rod, shout out to the bar at the Ghost Street Grill for making my ridiculous request of a drink. So, um, Rod, what are your thoughts on, like what's your next Bandon trip? What would be your ideal itinerary? And like, is there anything that you would want to do that you didn't get to do the first time?
I don't have too much to add to what everyone else has said. I mean, that was definitely the most golf I've ever played in a 3 day period. So the guy was physically, like as I said earlier, like pretty exhausted after we finished Sheep Ranch. And I went to the Punch Bowl with Chris Hussey and Rick, and that place is awesome in its own right. Definitely recommend you check it out if you had a chance. I think Dom, you were saying like it would be nice to have a little more time to just explore the property, like outside the golf courses. Obviously, I was dying for like some sort of massage or like sauna experience. We found a hot tub, I think, on the last day that we were there before we went to our other hotel. But I would have liked to spend a little more time just exploring the property and everything it has to offer. And yeah, obviously, like spacing out the rounds would be sweet if we had no budget or time constraints. So yeah, otherwise, I agree with what everyone else has said. It's an awesome place. Like, try to make the most of it when you are there, if you get to go there. That's really all I would say.
To add one thing to that, the one place that I really wanted to check out, or I guess two places I really wanted to check out, was like the massage center. And apparently there was like a smoke room also that I was like, I tried to find it on the second day, and like somebody gave me directions, and I was like, I don't see anything down here, so I'm just gonna go back up and like grab my stuff and go back to the room.
Well, upstairs at McKee's was closed too, which might have like a spot for smoking as well. But things Abandoned could do better in the future. With as much of a factory, it's finely tuned. They've got it down to a science. You're dealing with generally the people who can afford to go to Bandon are middle-aged or above. We need facilities to take care of our bodies if we're going to be playing 36 holes. So one little hot tub and like a massage center, it doesn't cut it for me. I think you've got to have like a whole like wellness center where you've got multiple hot tubs, cold plunges, heat, different types of saunas, like, and look, pay for play, whatever you want to do, but that feels like a real untapped revenue opportunity for Bandon to get like a pass while you're there.
So that there's a jacuzzi and a changing room underneath the main clubhouse. That's the only spot to go get that sort of amenity, right?
The gym was super. I went to the gym, and I'm glad that I did, but it was so small. Like, and they are just like, "Oh, we just renovated this. This is great." I'm like, "God, you got to do better than this, Bandon."
All right.
All right, we're gonna leave room for Dom. Any hot takes that you want to get out there about Bandon? One last time, one last chance for you. Any closing thoughts from anyone, particularly Dom, if there are any?
I don't think, as time has gone by, they've cooled down. And so I've said, what my least favorite course is. I think it's not anything personal, but I would also argue that it has the worst hole on property. So number 8 is a connector hole at Pacific Dunes, and I think it's a little out of place. It's just a little boring, and I think when you're talking about the number 2 public course in the country, that everything's got a slap. But I don't have anything that's still like fiery as it was like the day that I played it. That I was a little I felt like I was shortchanged when I got to Pacific Dunes, but I think everything else exceeded expectations. And I wish I had more hot take, but I think that's pretty much it. I think if you've played California coastal golf, you're a little bit immune sometimes to going somewhere like Bandon and being like, oh, this is spectacular. Like, I've had the chance to play Spyglass with Alex. I've played Half Moon Bay, which I did say on the Range of Sheep Ranch. I did say that Pac Dunes is a glorified Half Moon Bay ocean course. I still think that that's somewhat true. But again, like it's eased over time. As outside of it, like I understand how special some of those things are, and no golf course is perfect, so I can't argue with the time that I had there and the experience that I had.
All right. Any final call for any closing thoughts from everyone?
Get the protein bowls at Bandon Dunes all around the resort if you get a chance. They are amazing. Great snack, and they're healthy too. And Jack, last thing I think I was going to say, you were asking about the transport and the shuttle system earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I found the service just across the board to be top notch. They know what they're doing. David, was it you who just said it's a well-oiled machine? Did I hear someone say that? I'll echo that point. It was just everyone's so happy and cheerful and kind. I mean, they're doing a great job running that place. So, you know, we all want to go back, I think. But yeah, just phenomenal experience all around. And thank you guys for welcoming me to your crew because it was my first time meeting all of you. And shout out Chris Hussey again for the invitation. Yeah.
I was a little surprised by the food. I actually was very impressed with logistically, like the food out, like getting food out there, like the quality of service and the quality of food that they had out there. I actually thought was much better than I expected it to be.
Yeah, I won't name names, but some people has thinking we were going to get food poisoning like every other night. And so my expectations for food were low. But the only thing that I had that I didn't like was the lamb stew at Sheep's Ranch. I thought that was diabolically bad. But they also had the best meal or food that I had, which was the pastrami sub, which was absolutely awesome. So if you go to Sheep Ranch, get the pastrami and stay away from the stew. But get the protein balls and keep your bag zipped up because those crows, they were at Old Mac. David saw it. They were like going after my stuff. They will steal your food.
Yeah, if you have food, you have to keep it on your person. Otherwise, your bag is done for. Period. Yeah. That's it.
All right, boys. This was fun reminiscing with you guys. For the listeners out there, we hope you guys, take this as a guide or whatever it was, but it was definitely an opportunity for all the first-timers or Bandon freshman class of 25 from the Municipals podcast to hang out and reminisce with each other. And hopefully for not just for us, but for the rest of the guys, there's more golf in the future. All you guys, I think Dom and Alex have been there, but David and Rod, you guys are more than welcome to join us at the cookout next year once we get that announced. I think you both will. David, have you played Ojai?
Not yet.
Soul Park before?
As soon as you guys put it on the calendar, it's going to be on mine.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we definitely.
David, you're going to destroy that golf course. It is so attackable. It's unbelievable.
We say that, but then we know JD, he's our low man. Maybe David will be the new low guy that can actually go out there and beat the course up. We'll see.
Yeah, JD likes to talk a big game, but man, I'm going to throw him under the bus here. He never comes out during the cookout and says I'm going to shoot 3 under. I think David will actually shoot 7 or 8 under at the cookout.
Talk that shit, Alex. I love it. Let's go.
Shots fired.
Yeah, we
got a second drive-by.
Yeah, we definitely love to have both David and Rod.
Hey, JD really helped me out on right after this trip. I played in the City Amateur. He helped me out a lot with my putting right before, and then he did it over a text message, so that was pretty helpful. That was pretty awesome.
I know he's helped Jack out. He's going to be my 4-ball partner this winter, so we all got love for JD. There's no question about that.
All right, guys. Well, we hope to have some golf with you guys soon. But thanks again for jumping on and sharing your thoughts and feelings about Bandon Dunes. And we'll see you all on the other side. Peace.
Thank you, Jack. Take care.
See you guys.